We'll put the microphone on now so that people can hear us. Welcome to 4020 Live. He doesn't like the music. What is this garbage you're playing? Something from the YouTube music library that is free of copyright. So
is it elevator music?
It is. Is it the Dagenham Girl Pipers, says Tim? I don't know. I think it's the band of the US Marines or something.
It can't be any worse than the music Sky put on for 15 minutes before their red button broadcast comes
the music
on.
we all had to listen to when Hull KR Leeds broke.
Oh, did you?
It broke, yeah. They had to put the temporary fault thing up and everything. We'll do that later. It's like this, but not as good because that's got like rugby in the middle. We had a complaint on YouTube last year. Thanks for all your YouTube comments. We had a complaint about the flag, which has been here for 2 years now. So someone not happy about the flag. I'm trying to find all the comments from last week's programme. Thanks to Martin, who comments every week, and they're always very amusing. What's with the rainbow flag? Woke Rugby League, said someone. So to balance it out, I'm wearing this Toronto Wolfpack t-shirt, which doubles up as looking like something from a far-right rally, which I didn't realise until now.
Which apparently the co-owner of Melbourne Storm is a big fan of far-right rallies. Not Toronto Wolfpack.
They're not funding this radio station, are they? No one's a big fan of the Toronto Wolfpack anymore, but enjoy your elections in Canada for all our Canadian listeners. Do we have any Canadian listeners still?
I think we used to. I think Wrexham
Canada. Wrexham.
Promotion has probably overtaken.
The best thing for Leeds United is now they won't be playing against Wrexham next year.
Well, there won't be a documentary then, won't there?
But Ellen Road's going to be improved.
Yeah, three proper stands to match the one proper stand they've got. What was it, 56,500 capacity?
Yeah, so all the Leeds fans who want to go every week could be able to go when they're in League One by that point. It's cyclical.
How did we end up talking about that? There's only two of us again, by the way.
I don't know.
He's
still not here.
He's opening a new office.
Is he still on the board this week?
I don't think he's ever been on the board. That's part of the problem.
They might announce that at the Saturday drinks at Magic Weekend. They might announce it.
Are there any Saturday?
I don't know because I'm not going, so I've no idea.
I haven't yet seen any invites.
Well done to you if you can name all 12 players on the Super League official photo from Magic Weekend. I can't, but I don't know any of the players anyway. And thanks to Phil who's been on. That music was top of the charts last time Salford won any silver. Who sent us a copy of this programme of the Midlands Hurricanes versus North Wales Crusaders.
Top of the table clash.
Teams still making programmes. What a novel idea in 2025. Not those digital ones. And it's great because they've got pictures, lots of pictures, match reports, pictures, and a junior word search, which is great because if you get bored at the game, you've got to look for words that are related to the game, like Wales, that's a word, Crusaders, Colwyn, not Bay, just Colwyn.
Yep.
League, Crabtree. Maybe that was part of his wage deal. Like the negotiation to get Crabtree in, you have to be in the word search. And Betfred, which is a great word for the kids to look for in the junior Storm Chasers word search. Sadly, though, can't find Jake Mamo in there. So.
Neither can they. He's not on the squad list.
Where is Jake Mamo? And he is in. Up the wire. We'll come to him in a bit. We can't start with the wire. We'll talk about the news first, of which the news is great news. I loved it when it started on Sky on Thursday. And they go to, here's Jenna with all the news, which is usually just someone signed a contract and you're like, I don't care. Great news. Salford have paid their players on time. That's how far we've sunk.
Well, not we, but Salford.
Not we, yeah. Well done on doing what you're supposed to do. At least it doesn't mean everyone must have written an article saying.
I mean, the only thing I would say about Salford, because I didn't see the Lee Salford game. I know that
I don't think anyone's seen
that Adrian Lamb wasn't happy that his team won convincingly. Is that Toby Warren, who became the latest player to don the Salford shirt, was squad number 50. And we're 9 rounds in. That's not good, is it?
No, it's like Hull last year, but Hull
not by 9 rounds.
No.
But they have some players. They will play the way it is at the moment. They won't win many games. The story that was out this afternoon was that Sydney Roosters want to buy them and turn them into Manchester Roosters, which is the latest story coming out of Australia, which is neither verifiable nor necessarily based in truth. There will be an element of truth in everything we get from Australia, but depending on which news outlet puts it out, is the relevance of credence behind it. But interesting that there may be another purchaser of Salford outside of the ones that have expressed an interest. Who I don't think anybody has any confidence.
Who owns Salford at the minute? And that seems like a stupid thing to say, but who does?
Well, I would think it's still Paul King, because unless shares have been transferred, I don't know. I think it would. The question is, are they going to go into administration? And if they are, then they can be picked up extremely cheaply. So you wouldn't get into a bidding war at the moment. But should there be an Australian team interested in taking them on, that's one thing. Should they want to rebrand them and make Salford, which has always been a city in its own right, Manchester, they're going to run into the same kind of difficulties that have always faced anybody who has wanted to have Manchester as a city actively supporting rugby league without realising that Salford has a value in itself.
But here's the daft thing about it, is that they're next to each other, aren't they? They are. I'm not really sure where the one ends and the other starts.
They're two separate cities.
But they are two separate entities, like Dewsbury and Batley. But if anyone from Manchester wanted to go watch rugby league, they could go watch rugby league. Like if they wanted to go watch rugby union, there's a rugby union team that isn't called Manchester. They're called.
Although there used to be a rugby union team called Manchester, and there may still be, but they're not down the pecking order.
But the other one, they're not called Manchester. So if they wanted to, people in Manchester aren't thick.
That football team that plays in red, where we have our grand final,
they don't play Manchester.
They're based in Salford, but call themselves Manchester. So the issue of being called something is not necessarily going to bring thousands of extra fans. Just run a club in a professional manner, and you might get supporters to go on.
Because there's a lot of these rugby union teams that have daft names that they just one, like the Dolphins, like the NRL Dolphins. They're not called the Redcliffe Dolphins. They're not allowed to be, are they? So they're the Dolphins. But it doesn't stop people watching them because they're not called whatever they're called.
It's what you're serving up.
So if like Harlequins, for instance,
Wasps.
Well, that's a bad example. Saracens, whatever they are, they the Welsh Rugby Union now.
That's not
well done to Sheffield Eagles, who opened up the Betfred Wheelchair Challenge Cup with a 146-20 win over the Warrington Wolves. They've got a lot of work to do when they're in Super League next year, Warrington.
You do sort of wonder why Warrington have been given an advanced franchise into Super League for 2026 if they are unable to get within cooey of a team that's just been promoted for 2025.
And who we expect may struggle this year.
Well, and who have said they don't expect to be knocking over any of the big boys just yet. That is a concerning and worrying scoreline.
Are we closing down wheelchair rugby league as we closed down women's rugby league after the 100-0
No, it's
results?
just concerning.
I just need to check because I don't know where we are.
I think the other thing is, and we will come on and salute the Warrington men's running team and the courage and bravery that they showed in winning without having any halfbacks, and the concern that will give them for the next 6 weeks.
Courage and bravery
when they don't have any halfbacks.
Any halfbacks, yeah.
I don't understand the Warrington Wolves club and the one club mentality we're trying to foster.
Well,
if their women's team and their wheelchair team carrying the colours and the name and the brand are woeful.
Sheffield are one club because they were tweeting throughout their game. They've put video up and everything of their wheelchair team, and I believe they are one club. I believe that.
Yeah, I think there's a genuine philosophy
regardless of the results, because obviously all the women's team get battered by Leeds.
I think Wigan are one club, and possibly even lead the way in some of the things that they do when I have all aspects of the club together. I think Leeds are one club, and they include netball as their one club.
Wakefield seem to be becoming one club because the PDRL team won again.
But Warrington seem to be incredibly disjointed.
Leeds won some disability award, didn't they? I saw pictures of
James Simpson.
Lancashire's James Simpson.
Yeah, again, that's hard to take.
We'll get Jodie to give him a bit.
But to be honest, again, if we're mentioning Mr. Simpson, as indeed we should, that is a huge leap of faith by Paul Anderson at the RFL to say, because you coach in one discipline, you will be of value in another. And I think that's a real step forward. He's one of the highest qualified coaches in the game, level 3. And to think you've got transferable knowledge from success in a wheelchair game to now an assistant coach in the academy running game, that could open a few doors. It may not be that much longer until, Dennis Betts is doing it, isn't he? Dennis Betts is moving his expertise and knowledge into the women's game. It may not be that much longer until we have a female coach of a male team, running team.
We've only just allowed female touch judges, let alone... Oh, come on, we can't do it. I know this is the Rugby League podcast, it's got a flag and everything, looking at it.
It's great. I think what James is doing in breaking down barriers and crediting the RFL for seeing his potential, that is a really interesting move.
Why have we got a flag? Big fan of Zippy, that's why. In the women's side of rugby, says Chris, FC couldn't even field a squad against Salford for the semi-final of the Cup, so if automatically progressed to the final, not good when a semi-final is a bye. It's not. But I've said before about Hull, they should just have one team until the point where they can have more than one team. And Hull KR, they play their women's games at Craven Park, and Warrington play their women's games in a park. Warrington Wolves Foundation is well in supporting Warrington PDRL, says Andy. That's good, successful, isn't it? Because you've got Andy, Adam Hills there.
PDRL is fine, but what is happening with the other branches of the club that bear their badge?
As I said on Thursday, not facetiously, all that money wasted on fireworks before the game, what could that have done for the women's team? Which I know is a daft thing, and it's not the same. But it's a waste of money. Don't stop wasting money on fireworks. All teams. Stop. It's a nice park, says Thomas. I'm sure it is. I've never been there. But,
I have, Victoria Park.
But it's also
in fact,
not
the first ever PDRL game was
it
there.
But it's not the Halliwell Jones Stadium. So that's just the point. That is the point. The Wheelchair Challenge Cup then made headlines this week.
It did, for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, but we need to go just step back and work out how we got to where we are. Context. This is the reading between the lines part of the programme. Well, it was going to be, but now we're going to talk about it, so it doesn't really matter. So here's where we start. Catalans, back-to-back winners of the wheelchair... They are back-to-back winners, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was at the finals last year.
5 times winners of the French Championship.
They won that again last week, didn't they? Against a team with a funny name. The Pandas? Was it the Pandas? Something. Some French people.
Yes.
So, I'm a big fan of French people. René Artois, he's French. The referee from the wheelchair final, World Cup final, French. Edouard Lapaglier, French. Michel from the Resistance, French. So the Catalan Dragons, who are Catalans, not French, have been kicked out of booted out of the Wheelchair Challenge Cup. We say, no, you not come over. Because France aren't playing England in a wheelchair international. That's what the statement.
France have decided now that they will not play England at Wheelchair Rugby League. Bear in mind these are nations 1 and 2, potentially great events that could be staged before the next World Cup, because they want to keep whatever powder they have dry. But that's in response to something else.
Because that's like the story. This is the story. This is the story that's out there is Catalans are out of the cup because France weren't playing the Wheelchair Rugby League. However, come with me with this in tribute to Edouard Lapaglier, the following scenario. So imagine if England were going to play France at Wheelchair Rugby League at some point, because they must have been slated.
Mid-season international.
Because we play each other all the time. It's not as if it's a surprise that we're not playing.
Mid-season international at a prestigious venue.
So imagine if this was happening, and then this didn't happen, because if we step back, England's men and women, who only ever play France and occasionally Wales sometimes, the women, and certainly the men, they play France every year because that's what we do. And you'd think England, with no mid-season international this year, they would need a warm-up perhaps ahead of the games against Australia. Because we want Australia. We need Australia. We need Australia. That's been borne out by the ticket sales. We need Australia.
Who do France need?
They need us.
Right.
And what are we saying to them?
No.
Up yours de los.
No.
That's what we're saying to them.
Yeah.
One for the teenagers. So in response to England not playing France in a men's
game.
international
Yes.
and a women's international,
Yes.
in the running game, as you say, the mid-season international that would have been played at a prestigious venue gets called off.
In London.
And then the
Use as
French,
part of the Olympics.
the French say, well, we're not going to play England then, at any point.
Dominic Baloup says, no,
No.
you must not go.
Up yours, head of the RFL,
Or whoever is in
whoever that
charge
is,
of
the Pope.
arranging fixtures.
We're going to get a new Pope before we're going to get a chair of the RFL. And then,
Maybe they'll combine the role.
yeah, must be only a part-time job, surely. And then, Catalans get kicked out of the Challenge Cup. So
In response.
Yes, everything goes back to a point that no one's brought up yet.
I have to say,
if that was the scenario, sorry.
it all seems very petty.
Well,
There are no winners. Catalan Dragons for the last 2 years have enhanced the Challenge Cup, but we'd obviously rather they hadn't won it.
Yeah,
But you know they are almost, with the exception of maybe a couple of players, they have the ability to be the French national team and Seb Bashara. That's good.
who is not the England captain, just in case people might have thought he was.
But we're not going to see them in the Challenge Cup, and again, it devalues the Challenge Cup when a team can get a passage straight to the semi-finals.
So I assume now,
Which just through no fault of their own because
yeah.
of the draw happens to be Halifax.
and I
Who
assume now,
bizarrely could have French.
well, they could get, they could now, couldn't they? Yeah.
Could have Catalan players playing.
So I assume now that the European Club Championship, which has been a thing for 2 years, that's not going to.
You wouldn't have thought so.
I mean, I didn't think that was going to happen anyway, because you could kind of work that out.
And you'd have thought it would have been announced by now.
So because England, at the running game of Rugby League, don't want to play France, which is just a thing that happens, and has happened. England play France forever.
And they should play France in France.
Because like we should play Wales, because
Yes.
they need, So because we won't play England won't play France in the running game, Catalan's Dragons have been kicked out of the Wheelchair Challenge Cup. There's a story for you. See, you tune in. There's the news.
There's Rugby League.
There's
In a
the
microcosm.
stories. I was going to say, reading between the lines, but we can spell it out to you. It's obvious. I mean, no one's really, I don't know. So what is going to happen? Nothing's going to. So England are going to play wheelchair rugby league? Oh, Australia, we know that, don't we? But we don't know that. But we do know that. Which is a shame, because everyone likes England France, because it was on the telly.
There's a proper rivalry.
Like millions of people watched it on the telly on a Friday night, kicked off Garner's World. It annoyed Monty Don. Everyone loved it. French referee.
And the likelihood is they are going to be playing in the World Cup final in 2026, which is only next year.
No.
So you could have had good build-up.
Have they got some secret tactic? They haven't got any secret tactics.
No,
because
everyone
knows
politics.
everything.
It's politics.
So yeah, so that's why we believe, this programme believes,
This house believes.
it's all because of the
Intransigence on all sides.
the people. So now we're in the quarter-final stage, but Halifax are in the semis, and the final's the week after the thing, and it's
And Leeds and Hull play this weekend in a quarter-final ahead of the other quarter-final.
it's good that everything's easy to follow, isn't it? And it's
We don't make it easy.
Are any of these games going to be? Is anyone going to stream the games? It's like these women's quarterfinals. Why were none of them anywhere? York streamed their men's game in the championship yesterday, so they obviously had the cameras there. So what? Again, that's not a criticism of York, because they're actually streaming games, as are Barrow. But it's just, why not? Joking apart, says Thomas, Wire clearly don't do enough for any other team, but they also can't recruit for the men's team. Matt Snate. Salford must have some other halfbacks you can sign. Sorry. We could have had a female ref on Thursday as Tara Jones was reserve rest for Warrington versus Saints. Well, that would have been interesting, wouldn't it? Because she's a former St Helens player. I know that.
I don't think they feel that yet she has earned her spurs to have a Super League
Well,
game.
no, but if she was a reserve ref, if the ref
Yeah.
got his head chopped
I
off or something.
think she's done a game in League One, hasn't
Yeah.
she? Yeah.
She was on the line on Saturday.
On the
because I saw
lines.
her.
Made a very good decision.
waving a flag and stuff.
I suppose we'll have to talk about refs and why it's taking so long to get decisions, and 18 people this week charged, but no bans.
No, but I mean, that's good, isn't it, going into Magic Weekend? All the stars that were at the press launch today, half of which probably won't be playing. But I mean, at least, Hits Radio, Greatest Hits Radio in Newcastle don't know that, so it's all right. But the players who were suspended this week, not suspended this week, will be free to play at Magic Weekend in front of their adoring crowds, in front of shirts. We need to talk about shirts, because Huddersfield and Castleford was a nightmare on Saturday, but they're all free to play, so it's all right. Mason Lino can play for Wakefield. It's good.
Except it's not all right.
It's not all right
because there's an inconsistency. But
why is there any? Was it easier at the start of last year before? Which year was it? When was Lee Radford at Castleford? Because was that when it started?
3 or 4 years.
I can't remember when it started. Whenever it was last year, wasn't it?
I don't have a problem with policing the head high tackle, as long as we are consistent with the distribution of cards. I have an issue that when people get sent off and are found guilty, that they don't. The punishment now is some points that are indeterminate, and Ash Handley gets a reduction in points because he got sent off.
Like the Man of Steel points.
Like, how does that work? He doesn't get more because he's been found guilty. He gets less because he was already sent off, and nobody has got to the threshold of getting a ban. Gives out a message to those who are casual viewers that there isn't really a punishment at all.
Apart from those lads who had the scrap between Bradford and Warrington Academy that we haven't seen, they got banned.
But I just, I think something's changed in the last couple of weeks here and in Australia. I was speaking to someone from Australia this morning who said that their policy has been deliberate, and it's all based around Magic Weekend over there. And there was an edict given to players about head high tackles 2 weeks ago. They didn't take that edict on board for this round that we've just had, and so they came down even harder on them, in the fulsome knowledge that it will clear the way for Magic Weekend, which apparently is viewed by a huge neutral audience, and as a spectacle it will look better because they've attempted to eradicate something out of their game. If that's true, then there is a logic behind what they were doing. I still don't 100% understand what we're actually doing. How Aso Su could be red carded at Headingley on Friday night. If that wasn't mitigation, I have no idea what is. And he collided, admittedly in the head, therefore yellow, with a player who was virtually at his knees. How is that red? And proven today with the punishment schedules that it wasn't a red.
It was it Pele for Hull FC who was sent off, and then everyone got kicked off about it.
Was it the hooker, Cray?
Yes,
who wasn't there very long.
No, that's why I got confused with Pele. And that was at the point where if you made contact with the head, red card. So it was simple to understand.
Yeah.
And then we brought in mitigation, which...
Oh, it's Fayumu Brown, wasn't it?
Brown.
Who had
Brown.
And there was an issue again about the space where collision is and the head and who's responsible.
Now there's mitigation.
Which
is confusing because at least then it was black and white. You hit someone in the head, red card. You don't hit someone in the head, not red card. And of course, as we know, since 1895, and I assume in the days when we were just rugby, you couldn't hit people in the head. So it wasn't anything new, just a punishment.
There was a time when the sport was trying to be extremely macho, where he hit you in the head, I've turned a blind eye, you can have some retribution. We moved
when refs were men and refs were refs. No, women. I don't know.
And people were
idiots.
Were getting dementia.
It will never happen, says Phil. People are inconsistent, which is true, which is why one person's mitigation is not another person's mitigation, which is why it was simpler when you just got sent off, which is not ideal, but at least we knew. And now we're not sure.
I thought it was interesting that both Brad Arthur and Willie Peters said there isn't a lot more they can teach their players about tackling technique. that they go through it in virtually every training session. It's not a target area. It never should be. There will be accidental collision in a physical contact sport. There has to be provision for that. But I just think the look of people being sent off and then found guilty, but not being banned, something's out of kilter there.
Because we were asked about on last week's programme, but we spoke about Cade Custon saying he deserved to be sent off. Why didn't we say this about other players? Probably because I forgot. But it's just
I thought Mason Leno should have been sent off in Golden Point extra time.
Yeah.
And I thought Cade Cust should have had a ban, because it looked to me as though that was a clear-cut red card case. Ash Handley has been found guilty of his offence, but he's clear to play because he's only got 2 points instead of 3. Don't fully understand how that works. And I thought Mason Leno's challenge was worthy of a red card. And if he'd got a red card, then it was worthy of a ban for the next game. But we don't seem to have that anymore. There's an inconsistency. We also have most of the decisions being made by a video ref.
Which is obvious, isn't it? Especially on the games which aren't the full Sky broadcast, because you'll get a shot of the referee just stood there, obviously talking to someone, but you don't know what they're saying to him.
I don't know whether that's part of an established protocol. But to me, you know, you're in dangerous ground there. That the decision should be with the referee who's seen the incident, rather than we've reviewed the incident, and
because then
that's down the road of VAR, which is clearly working terribly well in football.
Well, that's why Liverpool have won the Premier League. But then, why don't we do what the Rugby Union people do, where you get sent to the sin bin, and then the minions say, well, actually, it's a red card, so you can't come back now.
I just think if the referee has seen foul play and has acted on it, the video referee doesn't need to come in and decide the punishment for that. There's a different issue with how long we're taking to decide tries or captain's challenges. That's making, Hull and Wigan was a 2-hour game, which became slightly interminable. And I think the problem with that is the captain's challenge at the moment hasn't bedded in.
No.
That teams haven't yet worked out the best time to have a captain's challenge. Our video referees haven't adjudicated on captain's challenges, put the two together, and it's taking too long. I think that will speed up in a full. Now, any club who's 20 points down and has a captain's challenge with 30 seconds to go should be fined. Because whether that decision was right or wrong, it's you're just delaying the game.
Well, that's like in cricket when you just review a decision which you know is out.
Right, don't do that. No. You're not helping your team. You're not helping the spectacle. You're putting, again, undue pressure on the video referee to look at an incident that actually means nothing in the context of the game. I think the issue that we've always had with a video referee is how long it takes to make a decision. And I get you need to see a requisite number of angles until you're happy that you've got the decision right. What I don't understand is, can you show me the grounding again from another angle? If the grounding is clear and obvious, why do you need to see it again from another angle?
Says it all, says Kevin. When Phil, who talks and writes about Rugby League, doesn't know how the rules work, imagine what it's like for the normal spectator.
I don't know how they work. I just don't think that...
How they're applied.
That they're applied consistently. I think we do know how they work, but we don't fully understand. And I don't think the impression is that they're working consistently.
Ian, there's a lot of comments. Ian says, do we know if it's possible to captains challenge a decision that's already been reviewed? Like if... And I have no idea what Ian's talking about here. However, imagine this scenario. Like if several players have told the on-field ref that someone was pulled back on the way to the line and the video ref didn't review that bit and ignored it.
I think he may be talking about a try that
possibly
wasn't allowed to Mark Percival.
I don't know. Can you captain's challenge a thing? I also don't like players going up to referees and saying, make sure you look at this, but they don't challenge it. Or they can't.
I think that was... Again, strange. You'd have to look at the notes. I think that was a captain's challenge, but they may not have looked at that and thought it was sufficient to change the decision. Clearly, there was some interference with Percival. It should have been a penalty. I don't think it was ever a penalty try. But his ability to get to the ball in the field of play was harmed by the fact that he was obstructed. So a penalty would have been obvious. But I don't think you can challenge a decision once it's been made.
Kevin says...
But again, the fact that we're even talking about it is what's wrong.
We'll move on in a minute. Kevin says, do the video referees seriously know the rules or not trained properly? It's happening too many times.
They do know the rules because they're referees. So that again is sacrosanct. But they're not used to being video referees and having all the technology. And
well, this is why it makes sense.
There's very little training that's gone into that.
It makes more sense to have a Ben Thaler or other retired referees doing the video referee job than less experienced match officials who are not questioning their abilities as match officials, but they've got more experience of doing this particular part of the job.
Yeah, I think there's too many variables in terms of the technology, in terms of knowing how to use the technology, in terms of match directors understanding what they're being. The number of times that we get, can you just give me the angle I was asking for rather than the one that you're giving me? Again, it just adds time to it. The Abbas Miski try at the start of the second half against Hull, I think was timed at 5 minutes. I mean, everybody would admit that is too long. You may have come up with the right decision, but it's just too forensic.
Get the countdown clock on it. CSI video referee. Ian says, famous faces like Phil and ordinary people, in reply to Kevin. It's true.
Famous faces.
Yeah, it's like the people have worked out, you know everything and I don't know anything, because they didn't say, well, I don't know anything. Mitigation is difficult. What mood the referee... start again. Mitigation, in definition, what mood the referee's in, whether he's up for a hard game or not, says Kevin. But everything's different. It's just confusing.
I think if the mitigation is the player is falling into the tackle and the collision is accidental and unavoidable, then that's mitigation that you can understand. It's the application of the mitigation, because certainly in the Suasa Su case, I cannot believe that anybody thought that was a straight red. Either the video referee that was looking at it, the referee on the pitch at the time. It was so obvious, live and at normal speed, that there wasn't a lot he could do to avoid it, but there had been collision with the head. If we're saying collision with the head now has to be punished in some way, there's no way that's anything other than a yellow card. The Australian system, which is slightly more advanced in terms of the speed of the video referee because they're more used to it, there's a lot of on report, either play on, penalty or yellow card, and that seems to have a bit more of a flow about it. We haven't got to that point yet.
No. Is that all for referees? I mean, it's not.
It just needs.
The good thing is, it's not as if we're saying the referees are bad, is it? This is the thing.
I think
it's in praise of referees.
The captain's challenge has added a layer of complication that is making games longer, because the teams themselves are not used to how it works yet, and the referees are forensically examining the captain's challenge far too much. The too many different angles that, and again, what we're saying, even with tries, is that you have to find a reason to overrule.
Yeah.
If after X amount of time, whatever that is, or X amount of camera angles, perhaps, you're finding it hard to overrule the decision, go with the decision. Because if we didn't have the video referee at all, it would be the on-field decision anyway. And if it's forensically seen afterwards in Sky's analysis that it could have been interpreted a different way, so what? This is sport, and mistakes happen. That's why we love it so much.
I don't think we needed to highlight the fact that it took forever to make a decision to put on social media, because that's show the try bit, show all the tries, show the exciting bits, show the good bits. Do we need a new card? A yellow 8 minutes, a blue head collision with mitigation 15, red for straight foul play? No, because that's too complicated. Too complicated, Andy. We've got enough.
We probably should look at the green card as well, which was brought in to stop players going down and trying to milk penalties. But when they have a genuine injury, citing Jake Connor clearly having a dislocated finger, not taking part in the play. Why does he have a green card?
Why have we suddenly got a spate of dislocated fingers?
Well, it's like hamstrings. They didn't exist in a previous.
I'm fairly sure I watched a wheelchair game last year, and someone had two prosthetic arms. I can't speak today. So people breaking their fingers, it's like, no.
But you know,
I broke my finger.
He wasn't interfering with play. The play didn't have to be stopped. He was treated on the field because clearly he was in distress with a dislocated finger. The finger was put back in, and then he has to spend a minute and a half on the sideline. It's like, no, it's not meant to be for that. But we're adding further complication.
This week in the Women's Challenge Cup quarter-finals, you'll be unsurprised to hear that the games have finished exactly as you thought they would and have resulted in the semi-finals we thought they would, which now everyone's upset about the venues because Saints have got home advantage and everything's bent or whatever.
Who's upset?
The internet people.
What, both of them? The two keyboard warriors?
I mean, they could play the women's semi-finals as a separate double-header, but would the BBC show it on their...
And has anybody asked York if they're bothered? Well, didn't York win the grand final at St Helens?
Yeah, I was there
last year.
It was on national radio and everything.
So, if York can't bother, I don't think anybody else should be.
Leeds 38, Huddersfield 18, St Helens 78, London 0, Wigan 96, Cardiff 0, York 52, Lee 0. And York did that with 12 players because they had one sent off in the first half. So that's exciting. Obviously good to see red cards.
To which we say, what the hell was the quarterfinals for anyway?
Well, yeah.
So. Which I think is exactly what we said last week.
And the semi-finals are next week. And the league doesn't start till... Does it start
week
till
after
June?
next.
Oh, week after next. Oh, yeah, because it's Magic Weekend here. So there's no Women's Rugby League this week, is there? There's some games in the other things, but I don't know where they are in the paper. So well done to... I think Swinton have made a final...
women's wise.
Yeah. I don't think there's any women this week, is there?
We're concentrating on Magic.
I don't know. Yeah. So well done to all the other teams who won. And enjoy.
On Magic.
Yes.
Expecting a crowd of between 63 and 65,000, the highest one post-COVID. Which is good.
Yeah.
The other thing about Magic, which I think is really fascinating, is for the first time ever, there is simultaneous Magic weekends here and in the NRL.
Yes.
So, because all of the games are televised by Sky,
yep,
we are going to have a potential window into what the future may look like if we ever got a global broadcasting deal. So this is quite a seminal weekend, I think, for the sport in terms of what the viewing figures look like. Because you're going to have, 15 games over the weekend?
Yeah.
All elite division games. And even allowing for Huddersfield. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Or Penrith, who were bottom of the league.
They're rubbish.
It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It'd be interesting to see how many people become couch potatoes for the weekend. It'd be interesting to see where the highs and lows are. Be interesting also if there is an upturn in other media looking at rugby league as a global sport. So what sort of American content there might be or impact it might have. It's a really interesting weekend this weekend.
The NRL need to feed clips and stuff to the BBC website because they will show anything about the NBA all the time, even like just random things. So NRL, come and help us out, please. League One, Dewsbury with Paul Sykes playing for the 400th season in a row. Well done to him.
Well, he set a new world record, didn't he?
27 seasons.
I think possibly the last player left who played in the 20th century still playing.
Wow. Didn't do him any good though because they lost to Rochdale 32-18. Well done to Rochdale.
Harry will be pleased.
Yeah. Newcastle 16. Gull 34.
2 wins on the spin for Gull. But is that an indication Newcastle are becoming slightly more competitive?
Well, I mean, Newcastle were minus 40 on the coupon, which I know doesn't mean anything, but...
And Newcastle, we should say, are playing Friday night?
Yes, against Workington.
In the lead up to Magic Weekend.
Is that at Bladen?
Yep. A bit like Friday Night Lights used to be before the Challenge Cup final in London Scholars.
Tim, there's no magic watch along because I'm in Magaluf, so it's not happening. You have to watch it yourself, Tim. North Wales 42, Whitehaven 12.
Get a huge vat of popcorn.
Yeah. And some others. North Wales 42, Whitehaven 12, so they remain unbeaten.
The only unbeaten team in the Northern Hemisphere.
And Workington 32, Swinton 12.
Don't mention that to Mr. Kellman.
No. Our friend Abby's doing her sponsored walk this weekend.
Oh, is it this week?
Yes. And then she'll be at Wembley. Hopefully she wants to walk out with Saints, so hopefully for her they'll beat York in the semi-finals. Obviously I'm neutral as we know on this one. Then Leeds and Wigan the other semi-final, which is that's intrigue. They're both intriguing.
Yeah, which is what you want.
And we'll talk about those.
We didn't need quarter-finals.
No, we'll talk about those next Wednesday because it's a special Wednesday edition of the programme next week.
Bank holidays.
Yeah. So this weekend's fixtures, as I mentioned, Newcastle, Workington, Rochdale, Goole at 3 o'clock on Saturday, which is the same time Magic Weekend kicks off. So that's good. I mean, this again is
it's nonsense. It's nonsense.
We say this every year. There's no point, is there? No. Especially when we've got a bye week.
Especially in League One, where
people might say, "Oh, I've got to watch I've got a Super League for the weekend. I've got to spend the weekend in Newcastle on the pop."
Yeah.
Andy does say, "Why is it we can have 6 fixtures at different times at Magic Weekend, but not the rest of the time?" I mean, that was daft on Saturday having Salford and Lee at the same time as Catalan and Wakefield, and I don't know what that made no sense whatsoever.
No.
Also on Sunday, it is Swinton, North Wales, and Whitehaven, Dewsbury. Both kicking off at 3 on Sunday. Championship. Barrow 24, Doncaster 19. Barrow streamed that helpfully on Sunday, so you could watch that.
Barrow second.
Yeah. It's going
Fantastic.
well.
Fantastic.
It's almost as good a story as Halifax, that,
the
isn't
top 4, as they currently exist, you would never have predicted before the season started.
No.
So Halifax, Barrow,
Toulouse and Oldham. Oldham having lost to Bradford as well on Friday. I completely missed that game on Friday. I think I was working. I didn't realise they'd played. Bradford winning 42-12 away from home at Moneybank's Oldham. So great result for the
Oldham's got a few injuries at the moment.
Halifax 40, London 12. Sheffield 50, Batley 18. So Sheffield starting to...
Needed that result.
Yeah, after losing at Doncaster the other week. And York 26, Widnes 12, which again you could have watched on YouTube yesterday. And you were at Post Office Road for Featherstone 10, Toulouse 18. What happened?
Toulouse were 12-0 up at half-time, playing down the slope at what I still refer to as Post Office Road. Sorry to whoever the sponsors are.
Chris Moyles, yeah.
In the second half, Featherstone's attack stuttered, but because Toulouse are a full-time team, their defence was really tough to break down. The second half penalty count was in favour of Featherstone, 9-1. And they still had that level of possession, but could not break down a very good Toulouse defence. Featherstone looked like a team whose half-backs have not yet gelled because they've changed so much this season. Your cousin...
Yes, he was on the bench, wasn't he? Yeah.
Played loose forward.
Wow. Well, he's
Even
tall,
though
he's tall.
He was wearing number 5 on his back.
He's tall.
So Toulouse were good. In Benjamin Laguerre, they had clearly a very quick player out wide who they got the ball to. He scored the first 2 tries. And it was interesting just to be at what is a traditional club and ground, comparing that to a team that is being talked of as the next cab off the rank, either to be in Super League under IMG rankings, should there be a team dropping out, or consistently, as we're told and can't confirm for definite one way or the other, would be included in an NRL Europe style 10-team alternative. So it was just interesting to see that contrast. I am surprised they kicked off at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. There are a lot of counter attractions in the world on a Saturday afternoon. Even in Featherstone, I found it really weird that Featherstone Lions were playing East Leeds in an NCL game at the same time. To me, that seems self-defeating.
Well, especially when it was due to be kicked off at 6:30 if there was some football on, which there wasn't football on.
The other thing that was interesting,
and especially with Toulouse having to fly in and out, so
as an observer, was that Featherstone were advertising after the game, come and watch Wakefield play Catalan in the clubhouse. Now, you would have thought Featherstone wouldn't want anything to do with anything Wakefield are doing.
Yeah, but we like them. It's like Castleford we don't like.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that they're promoting staying at the ground for longer and using it as a facility to watch the arch rivals play in a division that, for the foreseeable future, you cannot see Featherstone
Super
getting
greed.
into.
Super greed. Betfred
It's
super
interesting.
greed. Yeah.
It's interesting. But it's always a pleasure going there. It's just I was saying to somebody that Post Office Road, as was in the days when we still had mines and things, that was one of the most intimidating grounds for away fans to go to, alongside the Boulevard and Wildispool. And that feeling for all that they do in their community at the moment just isn't there. And that's because Featherstone and the world has changed as a town, not the club. But an enjoyable Saturday afternoon.
And you can look at the last piece of Scarborough's McCain Stadium.
And you'll be able to read about that contrast in the next issue of Forty20, which goes to print this weekend.
Not Scarborough. Nearly finished my column, so that's the good news. Still not watched the Wigan documentary. In Super League, it kicked off on Thursday. Warrington 32, St Helens 18. Terrible Sky coverage biased against Warrington because both the pundits tipped St Helens. I mean, I tipped St Helens as well, so that wasn't good. 32-18. Should we do the praising Warrington bit first?
Yeah,
let's praise Warrington because, as you said, they played with no halfbacks.
Yeah.
Mark Sneed's gone off; he's injured now, and
Matty Ashton went off injured.
he scored a hat trick, and Roderick Ty
He
scored
did
a
that
lovely
before
try.
he went
Yeah,
off
yeah.
Roderick Ty was arguably the player of the game for those of us who were watching on a settee, which is not the same as being at the ground.
No. But Saints were robbed by the referee, so.
No, they weren't. No, I think Sam Burgess called it his proudest day as a coach, because his team came up against a ridiculous amount of adversity. They've lost George Williams for 10 weeks. You wondered how attack-wise they were going to cope with that. The whole of the pre-match build-up was Mark Sneed can become the man. Just before half-time, he goes off with a fractured cheekbone that is going to keep him out for at least 6 weeks. I genuinely don't know who Warrington will turn to. Presumably,
Wasn't the pre-match? Why are you picking Danny Walker? Why are you picking Danny Walker? Sam, why are you picking Danny Walker? Why is Danny Walker in the team, Sam? Why is he playing at 6? Why is he not in the team? Why is he playing there?
But
Stephen Ratchford. Was Stephen Ratchford sitting there thinking?
Well, I'm sure he's going to play this week, you would think, as the scrum half with Danny Walker. But again, it's asking a hell of a lot of Warrington, not only playing Wigan, but thinking about the semi-final the week after, to get a settled half-back combination is going to be really, really tough. But what they have got is clearly a spirit, and that's what made Sam proud, I think, that wherever he puts his players, they did a job for him this week. And I think rightly the week before we said there's an inconsistency about them. I don't think that's necessarily gone. I just think the spirit to play without half-backs and win is admirable.
Warrington fans, have you got any in the academy? Is there anyone who can step up and like George Whitley, of course, who comes
Ewan Irwin came on, who obviously is 17 and came through the academy, and
he got more camera time than Sam Burgess in that game.
But again, I don't think he is the answer at the moment going into the games that they're playing.
No, and of course they've got the big game against Wigan again at Magic, which was obviously, I think it's fair to say, well, I didn't see the game. No, I didn't see the game against Wakefield. I was working, but the performance against Wigan in Vegas was terrible. So they have to atone for that somewhat. But they are playing Wigan, who are quite good as well. So.
But they also need to get form on the board for playing Lee in a semi-final the week after.
I don't want to say it's a free hit, because that's not going to be the feeling within the club, is it? Sam Burgess is not going to say, well, everyone expects us to lose to Wigan. We're just
but the problem Sam will have is if he was thinking of resting anybody for the semi-final, he doesn't have that luxury anymore. But full credit to Warrington for winning that game. And
Josh Hughes kicked a couple of goals as well, which is good, because Mark Sneed missed one again. I mean, he's rubbish, Mark Sneed, these days. So it's a good job they're missing him. St Helens. Do we need to praise Warrington? Warrington fans, do we need to praise you more? Is that enough praise yet? Kevin says Taylor Ray's injured, yes, which is why they can't move Dufty to half back.
But I don't think Dufty should be moved to half back. And we'll come on to St Helens now, and a mistake in selection that they may have made by moving someone to half back.
Well, this is the George Whitby effect, isn't it? Because everyone's bulled him up as like, here he is, he's in the team now, he's great, we've dropped Johnny Lomax.
I don't think it's anything to do with George Whitby. I think it's to do with Tristan Saylor.
Is he a round peg in a square hole? And that means they've had to move Jack Wellesby here and this and... What is Tristan Saylor? Because obviously he was great in the first couple of weeks of Super League, but that was against Salford, asterisk, and Castleford.
I think, and this is where you might start to reevaluate whether Paul Wellens has culpability in what's happening at St Helens at the moment. I don't see Jack Wellesby as being effective at standoff. I would think that Jack Wellesby is desperate to play fullback because that's where he's going to play for England against Australia. And I think he couldn't have tried any harder at Warrington, but at times it felt like he wasn't in tune with the guys around him because they didn't know what he was going to do and he didn't know what he was going to do. So part of that issue is he needs to be at fullback. I do think that George Whitby is an incredible talent, and I think he would benefit from having Johnny Lomax alongside him. So then you say, well, where would you play Tristan Saylor? And the answer would be, maybe you don't play him. But part of the problem is that I don't think there's any confidence in the Saints pack in particular that their outside backs are not vulnerable. So the Wellesby issue is one thing, but the edge defenders in the forwards are in two minds about the guys outside them. And Deon Sambu, who looks a talent, is not a centre.
He's off to Wigan, isn't he?
Apparently.
Yeah.
But his side was so ruthlessly exploited that had to move Percival over. And I think that, again, is a team selection issue. And the experienced players in the pack are making uncharacteristic mistakes because they're almost trying to protect the guys outside them.
You sat for the last couple of weeks watching games as a neutral and thinking, has Alex Walmsley gone? You don't want to think about players.
But I think he's trying to overcompensate.
Yeah.
I think Curtis Sironin, who is a great defender, is in two minds about should he do what he knows he should be doing and can do, or should he be trying to protect somebody outside him who he has less confidence in. And I just don't... The balance didn't look right on Thursday night, and it seemed to be selection issues. So you can't blame a coach for players making mistakes. You can ask why they're making those mistakes because, somebody was saying Parsley had a really bad game. And he may have done. I do think you need to be at the ground and look at the stuff that they do on and off the ball, not just with their carries, but it's almost like they're panicking because they don't have confidence in the players that are playing outside them, and that has to be a selection issue. The Dion Cross thing is interesting because Saints have needed a centre for probably at least the last 2 weeks, and there's been a delay in signing Dion Cross to try and get him without a transfer fee.
That was one of John Davidson's stories today, wasn't it? And then this goes into some... This is going back to the Salford mess again, and various.
But if you look at Warrington needed a halfback, Mark Sneed became available. They paid a fee. Leeds needed Callum Watkins. They didn't wait until he might become a free agent. They paid a fee. Now they may have got those players cheaper than if they'd have been on the open market, but the idea was that there's a tiny bit of altruism behind those two clubs by paying a fee.
But does this go back then?
But the Dion Cross one mystifies me.
Does it go back to Eamon McManus saying about money and
I don't know. I mean, clearly Conrad Hurrell not being there has been a problem. Kyle Felt not being there has been a problem. There's a St Helens-born centre that wants to play for the club. Just get him in.
It doesn't make any sense why they re-signed Conrad Hurrell.
I don't think they knew he was going to be injured.
Well, I
think they knew that some of the kids that they're relying on at the moment.
But he does take up a quarter spot, doesn't he?
Yeah, but
so there's
had he
a
been
value
fit,
of that as well.
Had he been fit, he would have got in this team, no problem at all. The issue is why did they decide to buy Tristan Saylor, and what position did they think he would be playing in? And as it's not working at the moment, should he be playing, and where is he best suited? maybe he should be playing on the wing at the moment. I don't know. I think his defence is an issue, but that is not an unknown quality of his. The other is, why did you not go out earlier and buy Dion Cross?
Lots of arguing about between Saints and Warrington fans on YouTube, which is funny. Kevin says Warrington's overseas recruitment over the last 10 years shocking. Just look at back at the failures. It's like we recruit for the reserves, not the main team. Thomas, in reply to that, says Wise recruitment is awful. We got Sneak because Salford have no money. Leyland, Johnson, Dan Russell aren't good enough. Well, is Leyland fit now? Can he play? Well, he's going to have to play, isn't he? Him and Steph Ratchford was pointed out by.
But they'd rather Leyland
Andy
went out on loan because he's not yet ready to.
Because Leon Hayes is injured.
And... And I think they thought he would be back sooner, but clearly he hasn't. He had a setback in his recuperation. It would appear they've signed Liam Byrne for next year, but that you'd think that might be a signing that would have been better suited this year.
I don't know.
I just think for the first time I thought there was an area of team selection that Paul Wellens has to hold his hands up and say he may have got wrong this week. But obviously Ian, being a Saints fan, would probably be better suited to comment on that than me.
Have we reached the point, and it happened with Rowan Smith at Leeds, where no matter what happens... Yeah.
I don't know what he has to do this year, because even if he were to win the grand final, it would be because of other factors rather than him. I think that I have nothing but admiration for what he's done for that club. Whether it's got to the point where whatever he does, he's not going to take the crowd with him, then Saints have a difficult decision to make. And the problem is, you don't just make a decision like that, you have to have a succession plan. If Saints were to lose to Leeds at Magic Weekend, not playing the following week because it's the Challenge Cup, they would have to be thinking about making a change. And I hate saying that.
Well, you never want to say, do you? Maybe they do have the succession plan in place. You know, well, like we've seen at other clubs before.
I'm told that Lee Briers doesn't want the head coach job. Whether he'd take it on an interim basis while they found someone else, I don't know. But again, it's difficult because recruitment and retention we get to that stage of the year where things are being announced, and you've got to know who you're playing for, I think. You know, Leeds have got that issue with they know that Brad Arthur is going, so.
Well, they don't know because even though I said on this programme last week, we all know he's going. It was a big news story later in the week, and I know nothing.
He can't admit to wanting to take a position that doesn't exist.
But how did it become a news story when everybody knows?
But
it's like when Chris Atkins signs for Castleford this week, because we all know he's going to do, because it's taken weeks, and we all go, oh, how did this happen?
But it's almost like the whole Morgan Gannon issue at Leeds. You know, one of the factors that will have weighed into that is he doesn't know who's going to be the next coach at Leeds, and he feels that his career development is good. He may well have gone to the NRL anyway because he's really ambitious, and I genuinely believe that it's not about the money, it's about trying to make himself a better player. But if you don't know who's going to be coaching you after the end of this season, it's another factor.
Fascinatingly worded statement.
Strangely worded statement. Ungraciously worded statement, I think, because if Morgan Gannon does come back, and I hope he has a 10-year career in the NRL and becomes a staple of the England team that beats the Aussies in future World Cups and Ashes series, then most statements would say, we wish him all the best, and should he wish to come back, we'd like to think that because we've tried to do our best for him, we may be the only club that he would want to sign for. Gannon in his statement said, I couldn't envisage playing for any other Super League team. It should have been a two-way street. It was a very clumsy press release.
Phil says Paul Rowley could be available.
For Saints?
Yeah, for anyone.
And again, I'm not saying that he wouldn't be a good fit either.
Right, so let's talk about Leeds and Hull KR, and to do so, to give you the full experience of it being on the telly, here's the test card. Because we missed a lot of the game, which was very, yeah. I mean, you saw it, you were all right. I don't know, it's not. Let me put us back on. It's not a conspiracy by Sky, which some people seem to think it was. That
why? Why would it be a conspiracy?
Things happened. The launch of BBC Two was delayed because of a major power cut. I don't know what happened on Saturday. I'm always surprised, on Friday rather, I'm always surprised when you think of everything that's involved in getting a live outside broadcast, that things don't go wrong more often. Because, I mean, the tennis today in Madrid was they had to pull it off because there's a big power cut in Madrid. Well, that's not anyone's fault, it's just happened.
You're also going to be contingent upon things like Wi-Fi working, because that's how it's done these days. What I would say is there's no conspiracy theory, because it was a great game. It was a fabulous game.
Yeah, why didn't they take off Huddersfield Castleford instead? Really entertaining game.
Oh,
really
it was great.
And
for all the the red cards, not
stuff,
fully understanding why and the implications of them, that's controversy. People were talking about two absolutely sensational tries, one to each team. They were talking about a level of controversy with the red cards. What did we learn? That Hull KR don't know when they're beaten, which is such a great trait going forward. That to score 3 tries in the closing 15 minutes to win the game, that takes a hell of a lot of doing when you've been battered for 65 minutes. I think Leeds need to learn that game management. 14-6 ahead, extra man, need to close those games out if they're going to be up there with the best. Hull KR, again, didn't play badly in the first 65 minutes, but were actually physically overpowered for a lot of it, but found a way. And they're players that needed to get them out of Hull, got them out of Hull. But the Riley Lum try with the interpassing down the south stand side was glorious, and the Mikey Lewis try to win it, fantastic. But a great game. A credit to both teams. Credit to Super League. Great crowd. Hats off to the Hull KR fans who swelled it to nearly 17,000. That is a saleable commodity in terms of sport. It had everything.
I'm still at a loss as to why the Brad Arthur thing was a story this week when when it's been done from when he signed the contract for the club. We've known Perth was.
The Australian media are touting him as the favourite to be the coach, so he's not. He can't.
So they got bored then, because we've known for ages.
But he can't.
He
can't accept a job that doesn't exist.
So it's almost pointless asking those questions, because you ask them knowing that you can't get an answer, but you have to ask them even though it's just daft. But that was a really entertaining game from what we saw.
It was brilliant. Honestly, it was really good. If we had games like that, I mean, again, we'll come to Catalan and Wakefield. A really entertaining game.
Saturday afternoon, Huddersfield 12, Castleford 30, which I know Huddersfield have got all these injuries and so on and so forth.
Well, they had some players back this week.
These are two of, going into the weekend, the worst teams in the competition for points. Castleford never looked in danger of losing that game. I mean, I didn't see it completely. Watched the whole 80 minutes.
I've only seen because I was at Featherstone
working, but from what I saw and the last bit of the game, Castleford never looked in danger.
And the worry for Huddersfield is that they've been better in the first halves this year and fallen away. At half time, they weren't going to win that game. I don't know what Luke Robinson has to do at the moment. That is a confidence issue. And he's getting players back now rather than losing them. Swift played, Wolford was on the bench, so something's got to turn for Huddersfield, and I don't know where that comes from. Castleford, again, at the moment they look like they're cementing 10th position in the league.
The battle for 10th, and it's live.
They'll be better with Tom Amone.
Yeah.
Clearly, the French loanees they've got in the pack have strengthened them. I think they're still in the market, as you say. Chris Atkin is likely to come in, which will give them some more choice in the spine roles. Judah Rimbu was picked out by Danny Maguire as being a live wire dynamo, which is great. What he needs, they're doing what they can with the resource that they've got. I still don't know when there's going to be an announcement about their ownership, which is far more important than any result.
Yeah. But at least they seem to be paying everyone and everything.
Yes.
So it's a problem, but it's not
Yeah.
So, and Huddersfield are still, you pointed this out before we came on air. The key fact in this game again is the attendance, 3,367. Now, granted, as you say, Saturday afternoon, so there were other things going on, and Cass we know will have taken a few because Cass fans, they love it. And it's not about the Huddersfield fans who are there and support the club week in, week out. But
I mean, again, I know there are some issues with the Huddersfield Town Football Club performances at the moment, but why would you play at the same time? I don't get it.
Especially when you can play whenever you want, pretty much.
Yeah.
So why didn't they play Sunday? Neither were in the Challenge Cup.
Well,
it's Magic anyway, so.
I don't know. Maybe the ground isn't available, but that's the danger of not owning your own ground.
Today
you'd have to say, wouldn't you, that the respective positions of Halifax and moving forward, and Huddersfield and disappearing off the face of the earth, both playing out of the same ground next year. You just wonder how that's going to work identity-wise. No. But you just wonder what the future is for Huddersfield going forward if Halifax, out of the same ground, starts to become a more dominant partner in terms of performance.
So Castor in form now going into Magic Weekend, so they're going to win. Carsten says, information. Today, the first regional entity of Rugby League Germany was founded. Rugby League Bayern. No beer jokes, please. No, it's good to talk about Munich.
Okay.
Bayern München. Bayern. Rugby League Bayern. Everyone's talking still about Saints and Warrington. Got people doing their own show, it's all right. Even Salford are above Huddersfield, says Kevin. Not good. And who did Salford beat? They beat Huddersfield. Salford 6, League 28. We didn't watch this game, so you can make it. Phil, did you go? Did what happened?
Adrian Lamb seemed disappointed with his team. That's all I know. And they won without breaking sweat.
I don't think there was anything that was going to make me choose watching that game. Even if Wakefield had not been playing Catalan, they're just
Why are they on at the same time?
Yeah, why was it on the again? It's not a long trip, so Lee could have kicked it off at 7 o'clock. It wouldn't have made much difference, would it? It's not going to make no difference for the people coming from Leeds to Salford or whatever. Maybe they're putting the big LED board by the side of the motorway. That's So Salford and Phil Salford. I watched the Catalans game. Well, now we can't rely on anyone to tell us what happened in that game. So I assume it was rubbish anyway, because our mate Edwin Apapa was suspended, wasn't he? So
yes.
Because he has been suspended.
Yes.
Which means the leading Papua New Guinean this week was Judah Rimbu. So Catalans 24, Wakefield 20. What a great game this was.
Well, there was
some superb tries and everything.
Well, we talked about the two tries at Headingley on Friday night. The forward interplay for Josh Griffin's try was why we love this game. Yes, big hits. Yes, acrobatic wingers scoring in the corner. Yes, huge tackles that are legal around the rib area.
Yep.
But when you get the kind of interplay that a handling code is renowned for, and it works as beautifully as it did for that try, you can only stand up and go, I applaud you. I don't care who you are or what team it is. That was brilliant. But it wasn't enough.
No. Not even with the Super Maxi Jowett and everything.
The start of the second half, the game turned. And it was almost the ease with which Chris Satai scored. Put elements of doubt in a Wakefield defence that had been brilliant in the first half, but Catalan sort of dug their way back in, and obviously they missed Tommy Makers with an HIA. Looked like the touchline penalty had won it for them. Only then for Max to step up to take it to Golden Point, and the winner in Golden Point again brilliantly fashioned, improvised, because the the drop goal was closed down.
It's like the fake punt in the NFL. Everyone loves seeing the fake punt in the NFL or the fake field goal because you don't expect it. So everyone expects the drop goal, don't they? He's gone. He's scored. What happened?
But again, the penalty from Mason Lino in Golden Point extra time that gave the field position was just ridiculous.
Who was it who gave away a penalty for Wigan in Golden Point against Brisbane in the World Club Series? Remember the World Club Series?
I used to enjoy those games.
Yeah. Also, Greg Eden scored a length of the field try for Brisbane Broncos.
The new Billy Slater. But I just thought it was a great game.
It was great, wasn't it? Really entertaining.
And it's because of that swing from Wakefield being dominant in the first half to Catalan looking like they'd nicked it in the second, Wakefield staging a fight back to take it to Golden Point, and then Catalan producing the kind of try that we saw from Sam Tompkins against St Helens. It was great viewing. It was great viewing.
Sorry, the main talking point from Huddersfield Castleford, I forgot. The kits. Can't have a team in pink versus a team in claret. It was dreadful. And I don't understand why you can... Castleford's yellow and black is distinctive enough from... Huddersfield's kit is dreadful. I keep saying this. Huddersfield have got one of the most boring kits of all time this season. And I know it's half claret, half... It's not even gold, it's more orange. Castleford's kit would have stood out against it more than pink and black against claret and gold.
Well, everybody's got 5
I know
kits, haven't they?
yeah.
So even if they'd played in white Castleford, isn't one of their kits white? I don't know.
Well, this goes back to and I know teams have hoops, so it's different to the NFL and the NBA and whatever, where traditionally you have a block of one colour versus white.
That's what the NFL always was, because when pictures were black and white in the newspapers, you could immediately identify one team and the other.
So we don't necessarily have that, but if Hull are in black and white, another team could be in yellow. Or if we're going to play in red and white, another team. So why we don't sort that out? But that was a terrible kit clash on Saturday. I'm looking forward to the Magic Weekend with all the kits we don't recognise, and then we go, who are these people? What's going on? Are Leeds going to wear that kit they've designed with Rob Barone?
For the Wakefield game?
Oh, they're going to wear it,
which
right.
Commemorates the year anniversary of Rob's passing.
Game. I'll be there hopefully if they let me in. I'll be
2:30 on a Saturday.
Yeah, because the women are playing Wigan before, which should be a belting game. Obviously, a repeat of the semi-final because what happens. Being colourblind, says Phil, it was hard work. I mean, I'm not colourblind, but it's just daft. It's easy, simple things that you don't need to do. Everyone's still talking about what's going on. Warrington's team selection is still being blamed on Darryl Powell.
Okay.
He's doing all right now. Apart from that, obviously Wakefield lost on Saturday, so we are going to lose to Castleford at Magic Weekend, which is concerned because we're next week's running the table. So Hull 12, Wigan 36. As you say, this game lasted 2 hours. Julian Sember, he's really exciting, as is Bevan French, and they scored another cracking try. Yeah. There's loads of great tries scored this weekend.
I think that was it our good friend Mr. Studd that used to use the phrase reversion to the mean?
Yeah.
And that over the course of a season you will tend to finish where your recruitment would indicate you would finish. So I think Hull have had a fantastic start to the season, but they're not at a level to beat the top teams at the moment. Some of that was self-inflicted. So John Cartwright saying, was it 4 times their wingers got thrown into touch? We mentioned this the other week, that I still think there's an issue about, it looks a bit like a rolling maul, that when somebody from each team has joined the tackle, that's when it should be held. But that said, those are the rules. The Wigan defence, early in the second half, when they were almost continuously on their own line, just never looked like being breached. John Cartwright said something that, and a massive amount of respect for the way he handles himself after games, irrespective of the result. He's just such a captivatingly honest guy. He was saying, we're at the 3rd stage in the season. It just gets harder from here. Your bruising doesn't relinquish during the week. You have to manage yourselves. If you think it's tough now, it's going to get tougher. And I think that we're in a period of the season where physically it will get tough for Hull. So, admittedly, they've got Huddersfield this week. A potential banana skin because Huddersfield will get a scalp at some point. But interesting that he's noted, I think he used the phrase, the honeymoon is over. They're still in a great position. There's still a credit to what they're trying to build there. But it was interesting hearing him say that his team, having been battered by Wigan, who are capable of doing that,
they're quite good, yeah.
So many other teams, that they didn't really have an answer for it.
And Wigan are just Wigan, as you say. And
I thought Matty Pete's interview afterwards was weird.
What did he say? I've missed this.
Well, he just seemed disdainful of every question he was asked. I mean, his team have had a good win, and he was talking about the game being ugly, and this isn't what people want to watch, and like 11,000.
Not every game can be great.
11,000 people were there. We should be honest about what we say, but the issue was probably more that it went on too long. If he wanted to make a genuine complaint about some aspect of the game he wasn't happy with, he should have said it. And if it was the rucks were too slow, fine. But to just be a bit moody and I'm not happy, but I'm not telling you why I'm not happy, came over a bit churlish, I thought. And obviously we're fans of the way he carries himself.
I should point out to Kevin, I've got full faith in Darryl Powell and the Super Wakefield squad going into the game this weekend. It's the fans on Facebook. Oh man, I tell you what, I'd have to go to my doctor after reading them to get my antidepressant dose bumped up, because you think we're being relegated or something. Just lose one game away from home, it's awful.
Where a lot of teams do lose.
They're quite good. They're quite good, Catalans. They've been in grand finals and stuff recently.
And they're building up for a semi-final as well, so they need to put this kind of form on the board.
And we've kicked their wheelchair team out, and then we might kick their men's team out as well.
I don't think we are, girls.
Andy says, why not got a Magic weekend kit for a change? No, we're going to be wearing that purpley pink one again. I like Huddersfield because it reminds me of Harchester United. Cass wearing that Papua New Guinea shirt then? I thought that was just, again, we're selling a shirt, we might not wear it, but please send, I like how they describe it as a tribute shirt to Papua New Guinea. Please send £50 now. We're not going to send any money to Papua New Guinea or anything. We're just wearing a shirt because we've got some players from there on the cheap. But it's this weekend, and it is Saturday. Lee versus Catalans, Hull KR versus Salford, St Helens versus Leeds, followed on Sunday by the game no one's there for, Huddersfield versus Hull. Apart from all the Hull fans will be there.
Who have sold more tickets than any other club.
Wigan Warrington in a game
we've seen before.
Yeah, and Castleford Wakefield, which we saw a couple of weeks ago. That was all right. It was good. Mason Lino was great that day.
The thing about Cass Wakefield is how many neutral fans do you think are going to stay for that game?
0. But that's okay, because the WF postcode derby, the battle of the phone codes 01924 versus 01977. It's a big battle. We can sell that to people. Come watch the rugby. All the people from Newcastle were there. The Saudi owners, they might be there. They might be small.
I think they're interested in buying the sport.
Well, they've bought boxing.
Should we be offering them fish and chips or something?
Now that the boxing's hilarious now, because the promoters who'd had all the power are now under the thumb of the Saudi man. So they've got to be careful.
It'd be interesting to see which Australian agents are spotted in Newcastle this weekend.
They're always there, aren't they?
Mm. Which club boxes they're in?
Well, the not chair of the RFL will be there, because he's usually at Wakefield games.
He was at Featherstone on Saturday.
Was he? Did you say hello?
He did. He was sat just in front.
Throwing stuff out the game. Don't want me. No. I'm only joking. We still don't have a chair, do we?
Not that we know of. Not that it's been publicly announced.
Well, how exciting that is. So enjoy Magic Weekend if you're there. And if you are going up on the Friday, go and watch Newcastle. Because they deserve the support. They're doing things the right way.
If the weather's like was predicted for this week, then it should be a fabulous festival of rugby.
I'll watch it on the telly. Because apparently you can get Sky Sports in Mallorca. I don't know how.
You take a little stick in your luggage. Heaven forbid.
I'm not taking a stick. But thanks very much for all the chat. I mean, I couldn't read it all out because you're just chatting amongst yourselves about Saints and Warrington. So
I'm going to go back and read that.
Keep the flag flying. We'll be back Wednesday because obviously it's bank holiday on Monday. Shop
This
shop.
is bank holiday Monday.
Tuesday, Leeds Hall of Fame. Phil's been inducted.
Or perhaps doing the inducting.
One day they'll surprise you. It'll be like the end of This Is Your Life.
No.
So,
And the other thing about that night, and I know it's Leeds,
Nice,
but they fate the anniversary teams, and it's a bit special this year because it's 1975 first Premiership. They found Mel Mason, who was the man of the match, became a recluse. 2005 first time the club won the World Club Challenge. 2015 the one and only time they've done the treble. So there's nearly 400 tickets been sold. It's one of the biggest events that's been staged. It should be a great night, and I can't tell you who's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
have you got the Premiership trophy to show off?
Otherwise, I might have to kill you.
Yeah.
But it's a big event for the club. But I think it reflects well on the sport.
Where's James Child these days? Says Kevin. He's busy.
Every Monday about 5 o'clock, he tells me how busy. He's opened a new office of his estate agency.
Mr. and Mr. Child, yeah, and
for which we wish him well. And he has promised at some point, when he's not working till the early hours of the morning every single week, or every single day of the week, he will come back.
when he's not on the board of the Rugby Football League.
Well, he's not on the board of the rugby football.
But we don't know that though.
Well,
because
no.
they haven't told us. They told us who's on it, but they haven't told us who's not on it.
But we do need for him to tell us the full story behind it. Do you want to know what record is on when we hand back to?
Yeah, I mean, first, did you get those crisps last week? Did we mention the crisps on the programme? You were searching for some crisps, Worcester sauce crisps.
Liam Perrins.
Well, they're nice.
Brilliant. Can't recommend them enough. Only available as far as we can tell in Tesco's.
I'll see if I can find some Spanish crisps to bring back.
Liam Perrins crinkle cut Seabrook crisps. Absolutely brilliant.
More than a snack. What's coming up? What's coming up?
I'll tell you. Good Loving Gone Bad by Bad Company.
Bad Company.
Follows us. I could be a D.
Yeah,
Good
you could
Loving
be. I mean, geez,
Gone
I do it.
Bad
It's
by
not-
Bad Company.
It's not difficult.
Going back into the 70s. Hair rock. Bad Company.
But you, listener, are always good company. Thank you very much for that. See.
Segue. Brilliant.
We'll be back next Wednesday. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Download all the podcasts and stuff. Thanks to you downloading the podcast. We've been able to sponsor a Cardiff Demons player. So that's just the last month of you downloading the podcast. So thanks very much for that.
And still number one in Mexico.
And still number one in Mexico. If you keep downloading the podcast, we might be able to buy Salford. If not Salford, then Cornwall. Right, where's Ronnie? Here's Ronnie. I keep forgetting that he takes the microphone off. There's Ronnie. And you can't hear me. Oh no, you can hear me. I keep forgetting that. Right. Well, we'll see you next week.
Enjoy Spain.
Enjoy Spain. Enjoy your